Today we are going to cover study sessions of all nine chapters and also of final thoughts. So let's start. I think it's going to be a very large video as common as the ordinary videos of chapters. So let's start from our chapter 1, study session of chapter 1. And the book name is As You Say Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert T. Kiyosaki. वो तो आपको पता ही चल गया होगा, ये सब तो याद हो गया होगा अगर अब तक आप प्ले लिस्ट में रेगुलर है तो। चलिए शुरू करते हैं बिना किसी टाइम वेस्ट किए। स्टडी सेशन चैप्टर 1, द रिच डोंट वर्क फॉर मनी। सबसे पहले इसकी समरी देखते हैं। लेसन 1, द रिच डोंट वर्क फॉर मनी। When he was 9 years old, Robert Kiyosaki and his childhood friend were not invited to a classmate's beach house because they were poor kids in an affluent school. After being told by his poor dad, his father, who was a teacher and made a good living but always struggled to make ends meet, to simply go and make money. He and his friends Mike did just that. They collected empty toothpaste tubes, which at that time were made of lead. They melted them down and used plaster molds to make counterfeit nickels. They were soon set straight by Robert's dad, who told them they should talk to Mike's dad, who never finished 8th grade but ran multiple successful businesses. Mike's dad, the rich dad of the book title, agreed to teach them, but on his terms. He had them work 3 hours every Saturday morning as at one of its convenience stores, dusting the packaging and cleaning. He paid them 10 cents an hour, which Robert usually spent on 10-cent comic books. Fairly quickly, Robert grew disenhanced with the boring work and low pay. When he told his friend he was going to quit, Mike told him that his dad said that would happen and that Robert needed to meet with him. Robert's dad, as a school teacher, used lectures, but Mike's dad was a man of few words and taught in a very different way, which Robert was about to find out. The next Saturday morning, Robert went to meet Mike's dad but was kept waiting in a dusty, dark living room for an hour. He was fed up and emotional by the time he got to complain to Mike's dad, accusing him of being greedy and not showing him respect. When he said Mike's dad hadn't taught him anything despite their agreement, the business owner calmly disagreed. His rich dad explained that life doesn't teach you with words but by pushing you around. Some people let life push them around, others get angry and push again, back against their boss or their loved ones. But some people learn a lesson from it and, in fact, welcome life pushing them around because it means they need to learn something. Those who don't learn that lesson spend their lives blaming everyone else and waiting for a big break or decide to play it safe and never risk or win big. He told Robert that he and Mike were the first people who had ever asked him to teach them how to make money. He had more than 150 employees, and though they had asked for a job, they had never asked for the knowledge that Robert and Mike wanted. So the rich dad decided to create a course that mirrored life and pushed the boys around a little. Robert asked what lesson he had learned of other than that his rich dad was cheap and exploited his workers. The rich dad challenged him on this, saying that most people blamed others when in fact their attitude was the problem. What would solve the problem? His brain, Mike's dad told him he wanted Robert to learn how money worked so he could make it work for him. He was also glad that Robert was angry because anger combines with love to create passion, a key component of learning. Money wouldn't solve people's problems. He went on. Many people who have a high paying job still struggle with money problems, like Robert's poor dad, because they didn't know how to make money work for them. He said that the emotions Robert had felt working for those 10 cents an hour, disappointment and feeling like it wasn't enough, was what he had feel like his whole life if he didn't learn this lesson now. He introduced Robert to the concept of taxes, explaining that the poor and middle class allow the government to tax them, but the rich don't. He asked if Robert still had a passion to learn. When he said yes, his rich dad told him he was going to stop paying him for the work at the store. He told Robert to use his head to figure it out. Robert and Mike worked for free for 3 hours. Mike's dad showed up and took them outside for a talk, asking if they had learned anything yet. They hadn't. The rich dad told them if they didn't learn this lesson, they had be like most people who work hard for this money. Their whole he offered them 25 cents an hour, which they resisted. He upped it to $1 an hour, then $2, but Robert stayed silent. Final offer of $5 an hour, a princely sum at that time, solidified for Robert that he wouldn't be bought. The rich dad said it was good they didn't have a price. Most people did because their lives are controlled by fear and greed. Fear of being without makes them work hard and earn paychecks, but once they have the money, greed gets them thinking about all the things they could buy, which makes them need more money, which makes them spend more. It's what the rich dad called the rat race. He told the boys that the first step was admitting to themselves what they were feeling. Too often people reacted to their emotions instead of thinking logically. They are afraid to admit money in is running their lives, so money controls them. It's not just the poor who face the fear. The rich often operates from a place of fear. He wanted to teach the boys to not just be rich because money don't solve the problem. School is important, he told them, but for most people, it's the ending, not the beginning. And the key for the boys was to learn to use their emotions to think, not to think with their emotions. They must learn to choose their thoughts. He told them to keep an eye out of ways to make money, saying, the moment you see one opportunity, you will see them for the rest of your life. The boys did, and soon they saw an opportunity in creating a library where kids could pay an admission fee and read as many books as they could in 2 hours. Unsold comic books that otherwise wouldn't have thrown away from the convenience store. They made a great profit, and the business did well for about 3 months until a fight in the library shut it down. But they had learned the first lesson in making money work for them. Even when they were not physically present, they were ready to learn more, and Mike's dad was ready to teach them. Left hemisphere movement. Despite having a high paying job, people like Robert's poor dad struggled to make end meets. Right hemisphere movement, looking at the discarded comic books in a new creative way, led to a business opportunity. Subconscious moment, people let the emotions of fear and greed rule their lives. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself, what is Robert saying in this quote, and why? Why does he say that? In this section, you do not need to agree or disagree with Robert. The goal is to understand what Robert is saying. Remember, this curriculum is designed to be cooperative and supportive. Two minds are better than one. If you do not understand what Robert is saying, do not shy away from it. Ask for help in understanding. Take the time and discuss each quote until you understand it. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Life pushes all of us around. Some people give up and others fight. If you learn the lesson and move on, they welcome life pushing them around. Stop blaming me and thinking I am the problem. If you think I am the problem, then you have to change me. If you realize that you are the problem, then you can change yourself, learn something, and grow wiser. When it comes to money, most people want to play it safe and feel secure. So passion does not direct them, fear does. Most people given more money only get into more debt. It's the fear that keeps most people working at a job. The fear of not paying his bills, the fear of being fired, the fear of not having enough money, and the fear of starting over. That's the price of studying to learn a profession or trade and then working for money. Most people become a slave to money and then get angry at their boss. Most people do not know that it's their emotions that are doing the thinking. A job is really a short term solution to a long term problem. It's just like the picture of a donkey dragging a cart with its owner dangling a carrot just in front of its nose. The donkey's owner may be going where he wants to, but the donkey is chasing an illusion. Tomorrow there will only be another carrot for the donkey. Additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with the understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partner. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept the challenge to change your thoughts and mindset. How common is the approach to money taken by Robert's poor dad? Robert's rich dad said true learning takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. What are examples of when this has proven true in your life? What's one lesson you never forgot and why? Would the pay rate of 10 cents an hour and then nothing an hour have strived in you the same reaction as Robert? Is it fear that drives most people to work? Are there other factors at play? Is the temptation strong to think that more money will soothe that fear? Why is that such a common reaction? What's an example from your life when you reacted with your emotions? What's a time when you were able to observe your emotions instead and choose your thoughts? Are the rich or the poor more susceptible to those controlling emotions of fear and greed? Why do you think that is? Do you think most people realize they are stuck in the rat race? Why or why not? Study session chapter 2. Why teach financially literacy? Summary. We revisit Robert. We revisit Robert and Mike some 3.5 decades later, 35 years later. Mike has taken over his dad's father's company and is doing an even better job than the rich dad did. As for Robert, he retired in 1994 at the age of 47. His and his wife's wealth is growing automatically, like a well established tree. He shares a story of the 1923 meeting of some of our greatest leaders and richest businessmen, men who own the largest steel and gas company, who ran the New York Stock Exchange, and who sat on President Harding's cabinet. 25 years later, most of their lives had ended tragically, with the man either broke, exiled, or in prison. The 1929 stock crash and Great Depression likely played a part in their fates, but today we live in a time of even more turmoil and change than they did. More important than money to our survival is our education and the ability to learn. It's not how much you make, but how much you keep, and how many generations you keep it. So, when people ask Robert where to start getting rich, he gives them the same answer his rich dad gave him. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. Robert compares the way many people act to building a skyscraper on a slab made for a small home. Because kids graduate school with little financial education, they launch into their adults' lives chasing the American dream but find themselves deep in debt. The only way out that they can see is a get rich strategy. But without having that financially literacy background, their efforts are like building a skyscraper on a weak foundation, and instead of creating the Empire State Building, they end up with the Learning Tower of Suburbia. Robert and his childhood friend Mike, however, were given a strong foundation worthy of a skyscraper thanks to the teaching of the rich dad. According as a subject is boring, confusing, and absolutely crucial to financial success. To make it accessible to kids, Rich Dad used pictures to teach it to the two boys. Only later did he start adding numbers to guide the boys. Through key concepts, rule number one, Robert says in is that you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and only buy assets. That's all you need to know. But despite it being so simple, it's something that many people don't understand. When Rich Dad first explained it to the two now teenagers, they thought he was kidding. How could adults not understand this? Shouldn't everyone be rich? The problem is that most people have been educated differently by bankers, financial planners, and others, so they must unlearn what they think they know. Some find this dreaming demeaning to return to such a basic introduction. The true definition of asset and liability lie not in words but in numbers. Robert uses the drawings to help readers the same way Rich Dad used them to help him. This is the cash flow pattern of an asset. The top part of the diagram is an income statement, often called a P and L statement. It measures income and expenses, money in and money out. The lower part of the diagram is a balance sheet. It's called that because it's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. Income statement, balance sheet. Assets से income generate होती है. Assets add to your income. They put money in your pocket. This is the cash flow pattern of a liability. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Want to be rich by assets. It's simple. It seems simple, but so many people struggle because they buy liabilities. If you want to gain and maintain wealth, you must build your understanding. Income statement, balance sheet, liabilities, expenses. It's not just straight numbers, it's how the numbers tell a story. Follow the arrows in each of these diagrams to see where the money is flowing or cash flow. It will tell you the story, the plot of that financial situation. This is the cash flow pattern of poor person. Job, salary, expenses. Middle class, job, salary, liabilities, expenses. Wealthy person, assets, income. Income, assets, asset, income, cut. Through these simplified diagrams, the cash flow tells the story of how each person handles money. Often, those in debt think the answer is to make more money, but not only will more money not always solve their problems, it may compound them. It's why many people who get a sudden windfall through the lottery or an inheritance, for instance, so quickly burn through it. An increase in cash only results in an increase in spending. What is missing for so many people is a financial education. It's why they might end up successful in their professions but still struggling with money. They may have learned how to make money but not how to manage it. People can be very intelligent and still be illiterate when it comes to finances. They learn how to work hard for money but not how to make their money work hard for them. Robert tells the story of a young couple who got to get married and start their lives together. Their incomes begin to increase, but so do their expenses. The couple is hit with the number one expense for most people, taxes, and for many people, it's not income tax that gives the biggest hit, but social security. It's roughly 15%. Social security tax combined with the Medicare tax rate, all of which must be matched by the employer. Funds that the employer now can't pay the worker, and the employee is charged income tax on that amount too. The young couple is faced with those taxes, and when they buy a house, property tax, and to go with the new house is a new car, new fortune, new appliances. Suddenly, their liabilities go up, filling with mortgages and credit card debt. The couple is trapped in the rat race, and add a baby to the mix. They work harder, higher incomes that lead to higher taxes. They continue to rack up debt, eventually rolling it into their mortgage in a consolidation loan. But their habits haven't changed, so the credit card debt continued. Not to mention they extended their home loan. For this couple and so many like them, their true problem is not knowing how to handle the money they have. It's caused by financial illiteracy and not understanding the true difference between an asset and a liability. So many people don't take the time to question whether something makes sense and simply follow the crowd. Often they mindlessly repeat what they have been been told. Diversify your home is an asset. You get a tax break for going into greater depth. Get a safe job. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risk. Because of the large amount of time Robert and Mike spent sitting in on meetings with Rich Dad and learning from the intelligent people he surrounded himself with, they learned a lot and learned to question the standard dogma taught at their school. It began to cause problems and made them grow distant from their teachers. Robert also began disagreeing with his own father over many money matters, especially when it comes to his poor dad's view that his home was his greatest investment. In contrast, rich dad saw his home as a liability. Many people still believe that their home is an asset, but Robert teaches that a home is a liability because it takes money out of your pocket, not only with taxes and expenses, but because of its loss in value and the opportunities missed when all your money is tied up in your house. And that causes you to lose out on the education of investment experience. That doesn't mean you can't even buy a bigger house, but make sure to first buy assets that will generate the cash flow to pay for the house. When there are enough assets to generate more than enough income to cover expenses, the balance is reinvested into assets, which grows the asset column on a balance sheet, which produces more income. The result is that the rich who understand the difference between asset and the liability get richer. The middle class gets stuck in the rat race because they treat their home as an asset instead of investing in income producing asset. They are also stuck because their salary is the primary source of income, and thus when their income increases, so do their taxes. Many invest in mutual fund, paying a manager to handle their account because they don't have the time or the expertise to do it themselves. They feel like a mutual fund is playing it safe, and they have to play it safe because their balance sheet are not balanced. They can't take advantage of opportunities because they are maxed out on debt and only have their salary bringing money in. Want to grow rich? Concentrate your efforts on buying income producing assets. When you truly understand what an asset is, keep liabilities and expenses low, you will deepen your asset column. So how do you know when you are wealthy? Robert uses a definition by R. Buckminster Fuller. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many numbers of days, or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? Another way of stating it, wealth is the measure of the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. When your assets generate enough income to cover your expenses, you are wealthy even if you are not yet rich. Left hemisphere moment. Look at the numbers and learn to read the story they are telling. Assets put money in your pocket. If something takes money out of your pocket, it's not an asset, it's a liability. Right hemisphere moment. The balance sheet drawing help explain the movement of money through different people's lives. Subconscious moment. The fear of ostracism causes people to conform to and not question commonly accepted opinions or popular trends, often to their financial detriment. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself, what is Robert saying in this quote? And why does he say that? In this section, you do not need to agree or disagree with Robert. The goal is to understand what Robert is saying. Remember, this curriculum is designed to be cooperative and supportive. Two minds are better than one. If you do not understand what Robert is saying, do not shy away from it. Ask for help in understanding. Take the time, discuss each quote until you understand it. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. Intelligence solves the problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. If you are going to build the Empire State Building, the first thing you need to do is dig a deep hole and pour a strong foundation. If you are going to build a home in the suburbs, all you need to do is pour a 6-inch slab of concrete. Most people in their drive to get rich are trying to build an Empire State Building on a 6-inch slab. Rich people acquire assets, the poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. If your pattern is to spend everything you get, most likely an increase in cash will just result in an increase in spending. In 80% of most families, the financial story paints a picture of hard work to get ahead. However, this effort is for not because they spend their lives buying liabilities instead of assets, but not fully understanding money. The vast majority of people, although it's aware, some power to control them. Additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with the understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partner. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept the challenge to change your thoughts and mindset. When did your financial education becomes? Was it with this book or from another source? How did you react when you first read Robert's definition of asset and liabilities? How did you react when he stated that a home is not an asset? Had you viewed yours as one? After he fully laid out his argument, did he change your mind? Which cash flow situation looks most like yours life? Other than your home, is there something that you thought was an asset that later revealed itself to be a liability? Would you agree with this statement? What is missed from most people's education is not how to make money but how to manage money. Why or why not? Rich dad told the boys that it's not the numbers that matter in accounting but what the numbers are telling you. What story do the numbers in your life telling? When was a time in your life that a seemingly people positive accomplishments such as promotion or raise didn't lead to the balance sheet result you expected? How many days forward could you survive if you stopped working today? Does that number surprise or frighten you? Term definition: 401k, a US retirement plan developed by the ERISA Act of 1974 when companies realized they could not provide for retirees healthcare. Asset: something that puts money in your pocket with minimum labor. Balance sheet: the lower part of an income statement diagram, so called because it's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. Cash flow: cash coming in as income and cash going out as expensive. It's the direction of cash flow that determines whether something is income, expense, asset, or liability. Cash flow tells the story. Financial aptitude: what do you do with the money once you make it? How to keep people from taking it and from you, how to keep it longer, and how to make that money work hard for you. Golden rule: he who has the gold makes the rule. Income: the money that is received as a result of the normal business activities of an individual or business. Income statement or profit and loss statement: it measures income and expenses, money in and money out. Liability: something that takes money out of your pocket. Mutual fund: a variety of stocks, bonds, or securities grouped together, managed by a professional investment company and purchased by individual investors through shares. The shares possesses no direct ownership value in the various companies. Social security: a social welfare or social insurance program commonly funded through automatic payroll deductions to subsidize persons in their old age and with disabilities. Study session chapter 3: mind your own business. Chapter summary: a friend of Robert's got to hear Ray Kroc of McDonald's fame speak in 1974 at the University of Texas at Austin. Awkward. Afterward, Ray agreed to join the students at their favorite hangout for a few beers. He asked the students what business he was in. At first, they laughed and then they answered that he was in the business of selling hamburgers, of course. But Ray told them he was not in hamburger business but in the real estate business. He knew that the land and location of each franchise were the most significant factor in its success. Today, McDonald's is the largest single owner of real estate in the world, owning some of the most valuable intersection and street corners around the globe. Robert's friend took that lesson to heart and today owns car washes, but his business is the real estate under those car washes. So many people work for everyone else, their employer, the government, taxes, and the bank mortgage. What Ray Kroc and Rich Dad knew was secret number three of the rich. Mind your business, don't spend your whole life working for someone else. There is a big difference between your profession and your business. Often, Robert will ask people, "What is your business?" And they will say, "Oh, I am a banker." Then he asks them if they own the bank, and they usually respond, "No, I work there." In that instance, they have confused their profession with their business. Their profession may be a banker, but they still need their own business. Too many people spend their lives minding someone else's business and making them rich. Minding your business doesn't mean starting a company though. For some people, it will. Instead, your business revolves around your asset column, not your income column. Promotions or a better job will only help you become more financially secure if the additional money is used to purchase income generating assets. The primary reason the majority of the poor and the middle class are fiscally conservative is that they have no financial foundation. They have to cling to their jobs and play it safe. They can't afford to take risk, and when hard times come, what many people thought were assets will not help them survive a financial crisis. That car has lost most of its value, those golf club the same. Too often, what a bank will allow a person to list as assets on a financial statement are not true assets. Robert was once turned down for a loan because the bank didn't like how much money he made from rent and was concerned he didn't have a normal job. But they were fine with him listing shoots and art collection and other personal effects as assets. Net worth isn't the measure that people think it is. Most so-called assets that people base their net worth on either are not as valuable as they think, or if they have gained value will trigger taxes on the gain if they are sold. So Robert tells people to start minding your own business. Keep your daytime job but start buying real assets, not liabilities or personal effects that have no real value once you get them home. Keep expenses low, reduce liabilities, and diligently build a base of solid assets. Parents need to teach young people this before they leave home so that they understand what a real asset is and won't find themselves trapped in a lifestyle of debt. Robert says real estate fall into the Robert says assets fall into the following categories: businesses that do not require his presence, the he owns them but they are managed or run by other people. If he has to work there, it's not a business, it becomes his job. Stocks, bonds, income generating real estate, notes, IOUs, royalties from intellectual property such as music, scripts, and patents. Anything else that has value, produces income, or appreciates and has a ready market. Acquire assets. Acquire assets that you love. Robert loves real estate and thus spends much of his time thinking about and shopping for it. If you don't like real estate, don't invest in it. Robert also loves the stocks of small startup companies because he himself is an entrepreneur. Some are afraid of the risk of such small cap companies, but he says these are the place to make fortunes. His strategy is to be out of stock in a year. His real estate strategy on the other hand is to start small and keep trading up for bigger properties and delaying taxes on the gain, holding real estate less than 7 years. Even while working for the Marines and Xerox, Robert minded his own business. He kept his day job but was active in his asset column, trading real estate and small stocks. The more he understood accounting and cash management, the better he was at analyzing investment and eventually building his own company. He doesn't recommend people start a company unless they are really have the desire to. Otherwise, he advises them to keep their day job and mind their business, building and keeping their asset column strong. As cash flow grows, people can indulge in luxuries, but only if the cash flow supports them. Build the asset column and let the income generated by those assets pay for the luxuries. Left hemisphere moment. When assets generate enough income to cover luxuries, that's when you can buy them. Right hemisphere moment. Think creatively about what to your business. It's not your profession. Subconscious moment. Acquire the type of assets you love because you will take better care of them and enjoy learning about them. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself, what is Robert saying in this quote and why does he say that? In this section, you do not need to agree or disagree with Robert. The goal is to understand what Robert is saying. Remember, this curriculum is designed to be cooperative and supportive. Two minds are better than one. If you do not understand what Robert is saying, do not shy away from it. Ask for help in understanding. Take the time, discuss each quote until you understand it. To become financially secure, a person needs to mind their own business. The rich focus on their asset column while everyone else focuses on their income statement. Financial struggle is often directly the result of people working all their lives for someone else. Many people will simply have nothing at the end of their working days to show for their efforts. One of the main reason net worth is not accurate is simply because the moment you begin selling your assets, you are taxed for any gains. Once a dollar goes into it, never let it come out. Think of its way. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, it becomes your employee. The best thing about money is that it works 24 hours a day and can generate work for generations. An important distinction is that rich people buy luxuries last, while the poor and middle class tend to buy luxuries first. The middle and poor class buy luxuries with their own sweet blood and child's inheritance. Additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with the understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partners. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept challenge to change your thoughts and mindset. What is your profession and what is your business? How do they differ? What are things you might have counted in your net worth before reading this chapter? How do you view them now? Are the assets you are acquiring the type that you love? If not, how can you change that? What is a time you bought a luxury that your cash flow couldn't justify? What is a time you did so when it could justify the purchase? Compare how you felt in the two situations, both at the moment and on of purchase and later. Have there been people in your family who have spent their whole lives working for someone else only to end up with nothing? What would you have advised them if you could? Term definitions bond a debt security in which the authorized issue owns the holders a debt and is obligated to repay the principal and interest at a later date. Termed maturity entrepreneur, someone who creates a system to offer a product or service in order to obtain a profit. Entrepreneurs are willing to accept a level of risk to pursue opportunities and are viewed as fundamentally important in the capitalistic society. Financial statement is statement of your income, expenses, assets and liabilities, your report card when you leave school and what your banker wants to see before lending you money. Stock, the capital raised by a corporation through the distribution of shares. Study session chapter 4 lesson 4 the history of taxes and the power of corporations. Chapter summary. Many people see Robin Hood as a hero taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Rich Dad did not share that opinion. He called Robin Hood a crook. Through the popular sentiment is that the rich should pay more in taxes and give to the poor. In reality, it is the middle class that is heavily taxed, especially the educated upper middle class. To understand how this happens, Robert gives a brief history of taxes. In England and America, originally there were no taxes. There were no taxes, only occasional temporary levies to pay for such things as wars. In 1874, England made income tax a permanent levy on its citizens. In America, the land were a tax on tea led to the Boston Tea Party protest and helped ignite the Revolutionary War. The adoption of the 16th Amendment in 1930 made an income tax permanent. These countries were able to get taxes accepted by the majority because they were first levied only against the rich. However, although income tax was designed to punish the rich, it would up punishing those who have voted for it, the poor and the middle class. Rich Dad explained that he and Poor Dad were opposite. Poor Dad, as a government employee, was rewarded if he spent money and hired people, making his organization larger. But for Rich Dad, the fewer people he hired and the less money he spent, the more he was respected by his investors. And as the government grows, so does the amount of tax dollars needed to support it. Poor Dad sincerely believed the government should help people. He and Robert's mom worked for the Peace Corps, training volunteers to go to Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines. They were always seeking more grants and budgets increases so they could hire more people. For Robert, it was a challenge to work for one of the biggest capitalists in town and go home to a prominent government leader. It wasn't easy to know which dad to believe, but over time, as Robert studied the history of taxes, he saw an interesting perspective. As the government's appetite for money grew, taxes soon needed to be levied on the middle class, and from there it kept trickling down. But the rich saw an opportunity because they don't play by the same set of rules. Corporations, which become popular in the days of sailing ships, offered a way around taxes. Understanding the legal corporate structures gave the rich a stake advantage and allowed them to outsmart the intellectuals. The government ideal is to avoid having excess money. If you fail to spend your allotted funds, you risk losing it in the next budget. Business people, on the other hand, are rewarded for having excess money and are applauded for their efficiency. And as the government continued its ideal and spent more and more money, more taxes, this time on the middle class, and eventually the poor were needed. A corporation is simply a legal document that creates a legal entity. It is not really a thing, not a factory or a group of people, but it offers a lower income tax rate than individuals have, and certain expenses can be paid by a corporation with pre-tax dollar. If those who get up and go to work at their jobs and pay taxes could only understand the way the rich play the game, they could too. The problem is the harder you work in a job, the more you must pay the government. Taxes end up punishing the very people who voted them in. Attempts to punish the rich rarely work because the rich find ways to minimize their tax burden. One such way is Section 1030 of the Internal Revenue Code, which allows a seller to delay paying taxes on a piece of real estate that is sold for a capital gain through the exchange for a more expensive piece of real estate. As long as you keep trading up in value, you won't be taxed on the gains until you liquidate. Those who don't take advantage of these savings are missing a chance to build their asset column. In all the years Rich Dad was guiding Robert, he was trying to teach him that knowledge is power. And with money comes great power that requires the right knowledge to keep it and make it multiply. Without that knowledge, the world pushes you around. The tax man is a bully who will always take more if you let him. Don't let him by making your money work for you. Smart tax consultants and attorneys are worth their cost, as it's still cheaper than paying the government. It's expensive to not know the law. In his mid 20s, when he was just out of the Marine Corps and working for Xerox, Robert was disappointed by how much was taken out of his paychecks. It motivated him to form his first corporation in 1974 and work harder at his day job to amass as much money as possible to invest in real estate. He became one of the top salesmen at Xerox and in less than 3 years was making more in his real estate holding corporation than he was at Xerox. His company bought him his first Porsche, proof that the plan was working. The lessons he learned from Rich Dad helped him break out of the proverbial rat race at an early age, and he wants to help others do the same. Financial IQ or financial intelligence is what makes that possible. It's made up of four things: accounting, financial literacy, or the ability to read numbers and evaluate the strength, weakness of any number. Second, investing, the science and strategy of money, making money. Third, understanding markets, the science of supply and demand, the market conditions. Fourth, the law, tax advantages and protections. Understanding those legal advantages is profound when it comes to long term wealth. For instance, is a corporation can pay expenses before paying taxes, whereas an employee get taxed first and must try to pay expenses on what is left. Board meeting in Hawaii, car payment and insurance. The health club memberships can be pre-taxed expenses for a corporation. Corporations also offer legal protection from lawsuits. When someone sues a wealthy individual, they are often met with layers of legal protection. Often find that the wealthy person actually owns nothing, they control everything but own nothing. Robert urges those who own legitimate assets to find out more about corporations' benefits and protections. Garrett Sutton's books are among many that can help. In summary, business owners with corporations earn, spend, pay taxes. Employees who work for corporations earn, pay taxes, then spend. Left hemisphere movement accounting is financially literacy or the ability to read numbers. This is a vital skill if you want to develop an empire. The more money you are responsible for, the more accuracy is required, or the house comes tumbling down. Right hemisphere movement. Investing is the science of money making money. This involves strategies and formulas which use the creative side of the brain. Subconscious movement understanding market is the science of supply and demand. You need to know the technical aspects of the market which are emotion driven in addition to the fundamental or economic aspects of an investment. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself what is Robert saying in this quote and why does he say that. In this section, you do not need to agree or disagree with Robert. The goal is to understand that what Robert is saying. Remember, this curriculum is designed to be cooperative and supportive. Two minds are better than one. If you do not understand what Robert is saying, do not shy away from it. Ask for help in understanding. Take the time, discuss each quote until you understand it. My rich dad just played the game smart and he did it through corporations. The biggest secret of the rich, the reality is that the rich are not taxed. It's the middle class pay who pays for the poor, especially the educated upper income middle class. Every time people try to punish the rich don't simply complain, they react. They have the money, power, and intent to change things. They don't just sit there and voluntarily pay more taxes. If you work for money, you give the power to your employer. If money works for you, you keep the power and control it. A person who understands the tax advantages and protections provided by a corporation can get rich so much faster than someone who is an employee or a small business sole proprietor. It's like the difference between someone walking and someone flying. Employees earn and get taxed and they try to live on what is left. A corporation earns, spends everything it can and is taxed on anything that is left. It's only of the biggest legal tax loopholes that the rich use. Additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with the understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partner. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept the challenges to change your thoughts and mindset. Do you agree with the rich dad's assessment of Robin Hood that he was a crook? Why or why not? Have taxes created a bigger problem with government spendings? Do you think members of the middle class and the poor realize that the burden of taxes has fallen to them? What effects of that do you see? Do your beliefs fall more under the banner of capitalist or socialism? What are the benefits and downfalls of each way of thinking? Are the rich right to use the advantages of corporations to avoid paying taxes? Do you think more people could follow suit if they understood the system better? What are specific ways that you yourself could benefit from using a corporation for your asset? Term definition 1030 jargon for section 1030 of the Internal Revenue Code which allows a seller to delay paying taxes on a piece of real estate that is sold for a capital gain through an exchange for a more expensive piece of real estate. Corporation, a legal document that creates a legal body without a soul. It's not a building or a factory or a group of people. Using it, the wealth of a rich is protected. Financial IQ, financial intelligence that comes as a result of financial education. People with high financial IQ learn to use other people's money to become rich. Financial literacy, the ability to read and understand financial statement, which allows you to identify the strength and weakness of any business. Chapter 5, Study Session Lesson, The Rich Invent Money. Summary.
Chapter summary of chapter 5.
Lesson 5. Robert gives two contrasting examples. First, the story of Alexander Graham Bell being overwhelmed by demand for his product and trying to sell his company to Western Union for $100K. Western Union didn't see the opportunity and turned him down, and a multi-billion-dollar company industry emerged. The second example is the TV news reporting on the downsizing at a local company and one terminated manager begging in front of the cameras to get his job back. He had just bought a house and was terrified to lose it. Fear and self doubt are in all of us. Robert has been teaching professionally since 1984 and has seen it in thousands of individuals and in himself. We all have tremendous potential and we all have self doubt. Courage can make the difference in leading a successful life. Robert said that a teacher, it broke his heart to see students who knew the answers but were afraid to act on them. Financial genius requires technical knowledge as well as courage. Take a risk, be bold, let your genius convert that fear into power and brilliance. Advice that will terrify some because so many play it safe when it comes to their money. There are many changes ahead in our world, and developing your financial IQ allows you to see that future of a change through the lens of excitement, not dread. You will see the opportunities and act on them as opposed to those who allow their fear to keep them on the sideline, watching others move boldly forward. Land was the wealth 300 years ago. Later, wealth was in factories and production. Today, wealth is in information, but information flies around the world at the speed of light, and changes will be faster and more dramatic. There will be a dramatic increase in the number of new multimillionaires. There also will be those who are left behind. Some cling to old ideas, and when they struggle, blame technology or the economy. What they fail is to see is that some ideas are their biggest liabilities. An idea or way of doing something that may have been an asset yesterday isn't today. Robert gives an example of a woman who came to a class he was teaching using a board game he had invited, Cash Flow. Cash Flow. The game teaches people how money work and about the interaction of the money statement, income statement with the balance sheet. Some people love the game, some hate it, and others miss the point. The woman in his example, struggled to see that things would normally think of as an asset, such as a boat, negatively affect her cash flow. She pulled a number of challenging cards and had a terrible game. In the end, she was angry and demanded a refund, refusing to see how the game reflected her. Games are a powerful way to teach as they reflect behavior and are instant feedback system. Later, Robert got an update and on the upset woman she had calmed down and started seeing a slight relationship between the game and her life, a life in which she had never paid attention to her and her ex-husband's finances and had been burned because of it. The purpose of the cash flow game is to teach players to think and create new and various financial options. Some do this easily, others struggle. Those who have created financially mind escape the rat race the fastest. Some playing the game have lots of money but don't know what to do with it. That's true in life as well. Some playing the game complain that the right cards are not coming their way and just sit there. Some get a great opportunity card but don't have the money to act on it, and others have the money, get a card but don't see it for the opportunity. It is all of these behaviors happen in real life too. Financial intelligence is simply having more options, figuring out the ways to create opportunities or altering situations to work in your favor. Luck is created, so go create yours. Money, which isn't real by the way, but just what we agree it is, isn't your our greatest asset. Our mind is trained it well. Millions can be made from nothing more than ideas and agreements. Putting money away each month is a sound idea, but it can blind you to what is really going on and cause you to miss opportunities for much more significant growth. In the early 1990s, the economy in Phoenix was terrible. Robert and Kim capitalized on that investing in real estate. He gave an example of buying a home worth $75,000 for $20,000 using $2,000 as a down payment that a friend had loaned him for $200, which the purchase was being proceeded. proceeded. He ran an ad advertisement, a $75,000 house for only $60,000 and no money down. As soon as the house was legally his, he sold it in minutes. Everyone was happy, and the $40,000 was credited for money in Robert's asset column in the form of a promissory note from the buyer at 10% interest and $4,000 a year in cash flow is added to income. Total working time 5 hours, and if the buyer eventually can't pay, they will simply take the house back and resell it. The math still beats saving after tax money each month. It's legal. The escrow company handles the servicing of the payments, and Robert and Kim don't have to deal with fixing roofs or toilets because the buyer owns the house. A few years later, the Phoenix market strengthened and it wasn't worth their time to ferret out the deals, so they moved on. Market conditions may be different when you are, so the strategy may not work for you. But the example illustrates how a simple financial process can create hundreds of thousands of dollars with little money and low risk. It is an example of money being only an agreement. Would you rather work hard, pay taxes, and save from what's left with any growth also being taxed, or take the time to develop your financial intelligence? Markets go up and down, and investments come and go. The world is always handling you opportunities of a lifetime. You simply need to be able to see them. Robert shares another example of buying a house for $45,000 in a depressed market in Portland, Oregon, and renting it out for very little profit. But a year later, the market picked up and he sold it for $95,000, reinvesting the capital gain into a 12-unit, $300K apartment house in Beaverton, Oregon. 2 years later, that was sold and the profit put into a 30-unit, $875K apartment building in Phoenix. A few years later, an investor offered $1.2 million for the property. It is an example of how a small amount of money can grow into a larger amount. The more you develop your financial intelligence, which takes time, the more opportunities will be offered to you. Robert's philosophy is to plant seeds in his assets column. Start small and plant seeds. Some grow, some don't. Some grow into millions from the little investments. Robert and Kim also have a stock portfolio where they buy high risk speculative practice companies, private companies that are just about to go public. It's a risk, but the more you develop about your financial intelligence, the lower the risk becomes. The smarter you are, the better your chances of beating the odds. Some may argue that there are not real estate bargains where they are, but Robert said there are prime opportunities everywhere that are overlooked. Most people are not trained financially to recognize the opportunities in front of them. As you develop your financial IQ and begin to put it into practice, remember to have fun. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but always have fun. Don't be afraid of losing, because failure is a part of process of success. There are two kinds of investors: those who buy a packaged investment from a retailer outlet, such as a financial planner. Those who create investments, these are also known as professional investors. If you want to be second kind of investors, you must develop three main skills. First, the find the opportunities that everyone else missed. Second, raise money. And third, organize smart people and hire those with more intelligence than you. There is always a risk, so you must learn to manage it rather than avoid it. Left hemisphere moment. Small amount of money can be turned into large amount with astute, well-timed investment. Right hemisphere moment. Robert always encourages adult students to look at games as reflecting back to them what they know and what they need to learn. Most importantly, games reflect behavior. They are instant feedback system. Instead of the teacher lecturing you, the game is giving you a personalized lecture, one that is custom made just for you. Subconscious moment. We all have tremendous potential, and We all are blessed with gifts, yet the one thing that holds all of us back is some degree of self doubt. It is not so much the lack of technical information that holds us back, but more the lack of self confidence. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself, what is Robert saying in this quote, and why does he say that in this section? You do not need to agree or disagree with Robert. The goal is to understand what Robert is saying. Remember, this curriculum is designed to be cooperative and supportive. Two minds are better than one. If you do not understand what Robert is saying, do not shy away from it. Ask for help in understanding. Take the time, discuss each quote until you understand it. Often in the real world, it's not the smart who get ahead but the bold. As a teacher, I recognize that it was excessive fear and self doubt that were the greatest detectors of personal genius. It breaks my heart to see students know the answers yet lack the courage to act on the answer. Old ideas are some people's biggest liabilities. It's a liability simply because they fail to recognize that while that idea or way of doing something was an asset, yesterday is gone. Rich people are often creative and take calculated risk. Why would you want to increase your financial intelligence? Because you want to be kind of person who creates your own luck. The single most powerful, the single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If it is trained well, it can create enormous wealth seemingly instantaneously. An untrained mind can also create extreme poverty that can crush a family for generations. If the opportunity is too complex and I do not understand the investment, I don't do it. Simply math and common sense are all you need to do well financially. The problem with secure investment is that they are often sanitized, that is made so safe that the gains are less. It's not gambling if you know what you are doing. It is gambling if you are just throwing money into a deal and praying. Great opportunities are not seen with your eyes, they are seen with your mind. It is what you know that is your greatest wealth. It is what you do not know is your greatest risk. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with that understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partner. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept the challenge to change your thoughts and mindsets. Robert says that it is not so much the lack of technical information that holds us back, but more the lack of self confidence. What is an example in your life or someone else where self doubt got in the way of a great opportunity? Some people have a lot of money but do not get ahead financially. Why is that? Ask as you have developed your own financial intelligence, have how has it helped you see more easily whether a good deal is good? Robert's philosophy is to plant seed inside his asset column, starting small and seeing what grows. How are you planting seeds in your asset column right now? If you are not, what could you do to be able to start? Robert lists two kind of investors: those who buy packaged investments and those who create investments. Which kind are you? Is that the kind you want to be have? How have you seen fear of failure play out in your life? How did it prevent you from taking advantage of opportunities? What can you do to conquer that fear in the future? Study session chapter 6 lesson 6: work to learn, don't work for money. Chapter summary: Robert was interviewed a few years ago in Singapore by a journalist who, over the course of their conversation, revealed that she wanted to become a best selling author like him. But her novels, which everyone said were excellent, never went anywhere. Robert suggested that she take a course in sales training that offended the reporter, who said she had a master's in English literature and didn't see how learning to sell would help her. In fact, she hated salespeople. When Robert pointed out that he is a best selling author, not a best writing author, she replied she would never stoop as low as to learn to sell and left the interview. There are talented people all around us who struggle financially, just like the reporter. In the words of one business consultant, they are one skill away from greatness. What that means is that too many of us specialize. If we could learn and master just one more skill, our income would jump exponentially. When it comes to money, the only skill most people work is to work hard. If that reporter took some courses in ad copywriting as well as sales, they got a job. Then got a job at an advertising agency. She would learn how to get millions in free publicity. A skill she could put to use, turning her next novel into a bestseller. When Robert came out with his first book, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School, a publisher suggested he change the title to The Economic of Education, but Robert knew that title wouldn't sell even though he is pro education. He chose a title that was controversial because he knew it would get him on more TV and radio shows, and it worked. When he graduated from the US Merchant Marine Academy in 1969, he was hired as a third mate on a standard oil tanker fleet. The pay was okay, but it came with 5 months of vacation a year. It couldn't have a good career, but after 6 months, Robert quit to join the Marine Corps and learn how to fly rather than specialize as so many do, including poor dad. Robert sought out new skills. Rich dad encouraged that, telling him to learn a little about the law. That's why Robert and his friends Mike had worked so many jobs growing up to gain a variety of experiences. Poor dad didn't understand the decision to leave the standard oil job. He thought Robert had gone to school to become a ship's officer. But what the rich dad knew was that Robert went to school to learn about international trade, and he joined the Marine Corps to learn how to lead troops. That leadership skill would serve him well in whatever business lay ahead. In 1973, Robert resigned his commission and took a job at Xerox in sales, even though he was a shy person. In fact, it was because he was a shy person he took the job. Xerox had one of the best sales training program in the country, and there Robert overcame his fear of knocking on doors and being rejected. When he became one of the consistently highest producing salesperson there, he left. Robert launched his first company in 1977, selling wallets manufactured in the Far East and shipped to a New York warehouse. It was time to test his wings. Today, he still does business internationally. Most people work hard to get a secure job, focusing on pay and benefit in the short term. Why? What they should do is to seek work, and that will teach them the skills they will need. Are people looking to where they are headed or just until their next paycheck? In this book, Retirement Myth, Craig S. Carpel, writers of the many challenges awaited most people in retirement and the frightened picture of what most people's reality will be. Robert recommends a long view instead of simply working for money and security. Takes a second job to learn a second skill. Many will resist this because they are not ready for change, but it's like going to the gym. You might have to talk yourself into starting, but you will be so glad you did when the workout is over. If you are unwilling to if you are unwilling to work to learn something new and instead insist on becoming highly specialized within your field, make sure the company you work for is unionized. Your specialized skills may be useless outside your field otherwise. Robert asked his students how many of them can make a better hamburger than McDonald's. Most raised their hands, but the reason McDonald's is making millions than they are not is because McDonald's excellent as business systems. The world is full of talented poor people. They must take the time to learn more skills like McDonald's business systems to succeed. Poor dad wanted Robert to become specialized. Even though that didn't work out well in his own life, he never understood that the more specialized you become, the more you are trapped and dependent on that specialty. Rich Dad, on the other hand, encouraged Mike and Robert to groom themselves and learn about a lot of different areas of business. For the World War II, it was considered bad to skip from company to company. Today, it is considered smart. It enables you to learn more and will pay dividends in the long run. The main management skills needed for success are management of cash flow. First, management of cash flow. Second, management of system. Third, management of people. And the most important specialized skills are sales and marketing. Communication skills such as writing, speaking, and negotiating are crucial to life of success. These are skills Robert works on constantly attending courses or buying educational resources to expand his knowledge. The skills of selling and marketing are difficult for most people, primarily due to their fear of rejection. The better you are at communicating, negotiating, and handling your fear of rejection, the easier life is. Being technically specialized has its strength and weakness. People in this category must expand their communication skills. We all must learn to be good teachers as well as good students. To be truly rich, we must be able to give as well as receive. Teaching was one of the ways both rich dad and poor dad gave to others. But rich dad also gave money to his church, to charities, and to foundations. He knew that to receive money, he also had to give it. Poor dad always said he had give money if he had extra, but he never had that extra. Rather than give and you shall receive, he believed in receive and then you give. Robert became both dads, both a hardcore capitalist who loves the game of making money, a socially responsible teacher who is deeply concerned with his ever widening gap between the haves and haves not. He holds the archaic educational system primarily responsible for this growing gap. Left hemisphere movement, it may not make immediate mathematical sense to leave a promising job for another, but the skills you will gain will lead to greater number in the long run. Right hemisphere movement, learning skills outside what you think of as your profession will benefit you. Subconscious movement, the situation you fear most is the skill that you need to learn and conquer, and you may have to force yourself to do it. So like going to the gym, you will be glad you did. What was Robert saying? Job security meant everything to my educated dad, learning meant everything to my rich dad. I am constantly shocked at how little talented people learn. There is an old clinch that goes, job is an acronym for just over broke. Unfortunately, that applies to millions of people. I recommend to young people to seek work for what they will learn more than what they will earn. Life is much like going to the gym. The most painful part is deciding to go. Once you get past that, it's easy. The world is filled with the talented poor people. All too often, they are poor or struggle financially or earn less than they are capable of, not because of what they know, but because of what they do not know. Being technically specialized has its strength as well as its weakness. Giving money is the secret to most great wealthy families. Additional questions. Do you know extremely talented people who make very little money? What could they be doing differently? How have you sought additional skills beyond your specialty? What was the result? Was there a time you stayed in a secure job rather than strike out into a new position that might have gained you more in the long run? What was the basis of your decision? If someone were to ask you advice on what the most important skill for them or for them to learn in their working life, what would you tell them? What role does giving play in your life? Do you see it as an important part of your success? What are different ways you could give that you are not currently? Chapter summary of chapter 7. The 5 main reasons financially literate people may still not develop abundant cash flow are fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Let's look at each of those in detail. Overcoming fear. No one likes to lose money. The only people who have never lost money investing are those who haven't done it. Everyone has the fear of losing money. The difference is how you handle fear and losing. The primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they manage their fear. It's okay to be fearful. One way to overcome that is to start early and allow the power of compound interest to work for you. There is a staggering difference between a person who starts saving at the age 20 versus age 30. But what is you don't have much time left to invest or want to retire early? Rich dad recommends thinking like a Texan. Win big, lose big. It's your attitude toward that loss that matters. Texans are proud when they win and brag when they lose. In Robert's life, winning as often followed losing. He has never met a rich person who hasn't lost money. But they don't let the fear of take them out of the game. The fall of the Alamo was a tragic military defeat, but Texans have turned that into a rallying cry. Remember the Alamo to spur them on to great victories. Just like Texans don't bury loses, be inspired by them. For winners, losing inspires them. For losers, losing defeats them. John D. Rockefeller once said, I always tried to turn every disaster into an opportunity. Even Paul Harbour was turned from one of the America's greatest losers to what propelled the nation into becoming a world power. Winners know that failure inspires winning, so why be afraid of failure when it can lead to greatness? Understand that not being afraid of failure doesn't mean you can't still hate failing. Most people play not to lose when they need to be playing to win. And that's why so many people struggle financially. They might have a safe, sensible, and balanced portfolio, but it's not a winning portfolio. They are playing not to lose. A balanced portfolio isn't a bad thing, but it's not going to help you win big. It's not how successful investors play the game. You must be a little unbalanced in the beginning, but you must be forced. Put your eggs in a few basket and focus. Building your asset column doesn't take hard math, but it does take courage and right attitude towards failure. Overcoming cynicism, whether it's your own self doubt or the doubts of others people in our lives. Often we allow that doubts to keep us from acting. We play it safe and opportunities pass us by. It often takes great courage to not let the rumors and talk of doom and gloom affect your doubts and fear, but a savvy investor knows that the seemingly worst of times is actually the best of times to make money. When everyone else is too afraid to act, they pull the trigger and are rewarded. Robert shared the example of a friend who was about to buy an investment condo for a great price but backed out at the last minute when a neighbor who wasn't an investor told him it was a bad deal. Had he stayed in it, he wouldn't he would have doubled his investment and started to get out of the rat race. Robert holds a small portion of his assets in tax line certificate instead of CDs. Others tell me Others tell him he shouldn't do this, but they are coming from a place of doubt. They have never done it and they are telling someone who is doing it why they shouldn't. The lower yield Robert looks for is 16%, but people who are filled with doubt are willing to accept a far lower return. Doubt is expensive. Doubts and cynicism keep most people poor. People poor. Rich Dad liked to say. Cynics criticize and winners analyze. Winners keep their eyes open and see opportunities everyone else missed. Real estate is a powerful investment tool for everyone. Anyone seeking financial independence of freedom. It's a unique investment tool. Yet everyone like Robert mentions real estate as a vehicle. He often hears, I don't want to fix toilets. They focus on toilets and it keeps them poor. Many people stay out of the stock market because they don't want to lose money, but they are keeping themselves from making money by closing their minds to that investment vehicle. Overcoming laziness. One of the most common forms of laziness is staying busy, too busy to take care of your wealth, health, or your relationships. What's the cure? A little greed. That can be hard to hear because so many of us were raised to see greed or desire as a bad thing. Bad thing. Rather than saying I can't afford it, change your mindset to how can I afford it. That opens the brain and forces it to think of solutions. I can't afford it is a lie. The human spirit knows it can do anything. By saying you can't do something, you are creating a conflict between your spirit and your lazy mind. How can I afford it creates a stronger mind and a dynamic spirit. When Robert decided to exit the rat race, he asked, how can I afford to never work again? His mind started kicking out solutions. But the hardest part was fighting against the old dogma that tried to instill guilt to suppress such greeds. Without the little greed, the desire to have something better, progress is not made. Our world progresses because we all desire a better life. New inventions are made because we desire something better. We go to school and study hard because we want something better. Too much greed is bad, but a little can help spur on you. Overcoming bad habits. Too much successful. You must develop successful habits. Poor dad always paid everyone else first and himself last. But he rarely had any leftover. Rich Dad always paid himself first, even if he was short of money. He knew that creditors and the government would make a big enough flap if he didn't pay them that it would motivate him to seek other forms of income to pay them. If he paid himself last, he wouldn't feel that kind of productive pressure. Forcing himself to think about how to come up with the extra income to pay the creditors made him fiscally stronger, overcoming arrogance. Rich Dad said every time he had been arrogant, he had lost money because he thought he what he didn't know wasn't important. Many people use arrogance to hide their own ignorance. Robert has found in discussion with accountants and other investors that they will try to bluster their way through the discussion, and it becomes clear they don't know what they are talking about. Ignorance isn't a bad thing if you react to your own ignorance. By educating yourself, by finding an expert in the field. Left hemisphere movement chose to analyze instead of criticize. Cynics criticize, but winners analyze and spot overlooked opportunities that others have missed. Right hemisphere movement overcome bad habits by putting new ones in place, but such as paying yourself first instead of last. Subconscious movement, fear of failure keeps too many people out of the game. Instead, use failure as inspiration to succeed, as Texans do with the memory of Alamo. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Same. The primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they manage fear. I have never met a golfer who has never lost a golf ball. I have never met people who have fallen in love, who have never had their heart broken, and I have never met someone rich who has never lost money. For most people, the reason why they don't win financially is because the pain of losing money is far greater than the joy of being rich. Rich Dad knew that failure would only make him stronger and smarter. It's not that he wanted to lose. He just knew who he was and how he would take a loss. He would take a loss and make it a win. Texans don't bury their failures, they get inspired by them. They take their failures and turn them into relying crises. We all get a little chicken when fear and doubt cloud our thoughts. Getting out of the rat race is technically easy. It doesn't take much education, but those doubts are cripplers for most people. I can't afford it causes sadness, a helplessness that leads to despondency and often depression. How can I afford it opens up possibilities, excitement, and dreams. If I pay myself first, I get financially stronger both mentally and physically. There are many people in the world of money, finances, and investments who have absolutely no idea what they are talking about. Additional questions. How have you experienced the fear of failure in your life? Were you able to conquer that fear? How? Rich Dad recommended we have the attitude of Texans: win big. If you lose big, shout about it and use it as a rallying cry. What's your biggest challenge for you in taking on that attitude? Does it excite you or frighten you? How do you handle the cynics in your life who try to discourage you from taking risks that you believe have a good chance of winning? Have you avoided certain investment vehicles because of I don't want to, such as I don't invest in real estate because I don't want to fix toilets? How might you react differently next time? Do you agree with statements that a little greed is the answer to curing laziness? Why or why not? How has greed or desire driven you in your life? Do you pay yourself first or your bills? If you pay yourself last, what steps can you take to change that? That has arrogance ever cost you an opportunity? What did you learn from that? What's an area of financial knowledge that you are ignorant in? What are some resources you could seek out to educate yourself on that topic? Stop. Term definition. Stop. A stop is simply a computer command that sells your stock automatically. The price begins to drop, helping to minimize your loss and maximize some gains. Study session chapter 8, getting started. Chapter summary. It is easy to find great deals. It's just like riding a bike. After a little wobbling, it's a piece of cake. But when it comes to money, it takes determination to get through the wobbling. You must waken the financial genius sleeping within order to find a profession. In order to find these great deals, our culture has told us that the love of money is the root of all evil. and that we just need to find a profession and work hard, and the government will take care of us when we are old. The message is still to work hard, earn money and spend it. When we run short, we can always borrow more. And that is why for so many of us our financial genius within is asleep. But we must awaken that financial genius in order to find $1 million deal of a lifetime. It's far easier to simply find a job and work for money, but that is not the path to wealth. If you want to go against the masses, Robert offers the thought process. He goes through everyday 10 steps that you can use to awaken your financial genius. Follow the ones you want, or make up your own. Your financial genius is up to the task. Find a reason greater than reality, the power of spirit. Many wants to be rich or financially free, but they turn away because the road seems too difficult to get there, like a future Olympic swimmer who sacrifices time and social engagements in order to put in hours at the pool. And studying hard, people need a strong, clear goal or reason in order to push through the obstacles. A reason or a purpose is a combination of wants and don'ts wants, just like Robert's reason for wanting to be rich. First, his don'ts wants as those creates the wants. He didn't want to work his whole life. He didn't want job security and a house in the suburbs. Unlike his parents, he didn't like being an employee and didn't want to stay busy working on his career to the detriment of time with loved ones, only to have the government take most of what he vowed when he dies, as happened with his father. What does he want? Robert wants to be free to travel the world while young and live the lifestyles he loves. He wants to be free and have control over his time. He wants his money to work for him. Like Robert, you must have enough emotional reasons behind wanting to be rich to sustain your thought setbacks. Robert has lost money many times, but he kept going because his reason was strong enough. He wanted to be free by 40, but it took until he was 47. Becoming rich wasn't easy, but it wasn't that hard either. But if Robert hadn't had a strong reason behind it, it would have been incredibly difficult. If you don't have a strong enough reason, Robert asks you to not read further, as it will sound like too much work. To make daily choices, the power of choices. You have the choice every day whether to be rich, poor, or middle class. Your spending habits reflect who you are. Poor spending habits. Long ago, Robert chose to be rich. His friend Mike, after inheriting a healthy asset column, chose to learn how to keep it, which is not the default situation when rich families passed on their assets to the next generation. Most people choose not to be rich. They tell themselves they are not interested in money, or that they are young and don't need to worry about it yet, or married. Other excuses. But those excuses rob them of time, their most precious asset, in learning. We all have the choice every single day what we do with our life, with our time and money, and what we put in our heads. Robert chooses to be rich and makes that choice every day. He urges people to invest first in education, as our mind is our most powerful tool. Once we are old enough, we all have the choice of what to put in our brains, but instead of choosing to invest in learning, most people simply buy investments to continue his own learning. Robert goes to at least two seminars each year. In 1973, he went to a 3 day seminar on buying real estate with nothing down. He spent $385 on the seminar, and it made him at least $2 million and enabled him not to have to work for the rest of his life. Robert also likes CDs and audio books so he can review what he just heard. One time he was listening to an investor he disagreed with, but after listening to the talk 20 times, he finally understood why the man said what he said. He was able to grasp that because he kept his mind open, even though he originally disagreed with the investor, and now he has two ways of analyzing problems, which is priceless. Robert has chosen to read or listen to what a number of people think, from Donald Trump to George Soros, and that gives him access to their mental power. When you learn something new, you often must make mistakes to fully understand it. Arrogant or critical people are afraid of taking risks. So they often won't listen to experts. It's not a question of intelligence. Intelligent people can be ignorant if they combine their smarts to arrogance. A truly intelligent person, on the other hand, welcomes new ideas. New ideas can combine with already accumulated ones and result in something great. Listen, learn. Take a long view of wealth, not a get rich quick mentality. Invest in your asset column. Greatest asset, your mind, before investing in stock or real estate. Choose friends carefully, the power of associations. Roberts learned from all of his friends, both those who have money seeking their knowledge and those who have struggled financially. And those who struggle financially, the latter group teaches him what not to do. He says several of his friends who have generated more than $1 billion all report the same phenomenon. Their friends who have no money never ask them how they did. They just ask for a dream or a loan or both. Robert warns us not to listen to poor or frightened people. To them, when it comes to investments, the sky is always falling. They can always tell you why something won't work. Any panel of experts will have one who says the market is going to crash and another who says it is going to boom. Listen to both because both have valid points. Be true to yourself and don't go along with the crowd. This can be one of the hardest part of wealth building. The crowd usually shows up too late to a great deal. Instead, look for a new deal prospect that can be frightened. Don't try to be time the market, get in position for the next wave. Wise investors buy an investment when it's not popular. They know their profits are made when they buy, not when they sell. It's all about insider trading, the legal forms of it. Being close to the inside. Having rich friends who have information on where the money is being made. You want to hear about the next boom. Get in and get out before the next burst. That's what parents friends are for. And that's what financial intelligence is. Fourth, master a formula and then learn a new one. The power of learning quickly. Be careful what you learn because you become what you put in your head. The masses have one basic formula: go to work, earn money, pay bills, balance checkbooks, buy some mutual funds, and go back to work. If you are not making enough, you need to change the formula. Years ago, Robert took a weekend class called How to Put Buy Real Estate Forecloses. He learned a formula and put it into action, making several $1 million in the process. So he went in search of new formulas. He didn't ask, always directly used new information, but learning. He was always learning. Many colleges have classes on financial planning and buying traditional investment. It's a good place to start, but Robert is always searching for a faster formula. He says that's why he can make more in a day that many will make in their lifetime. It's not just about faster formulas, but learning new formulas faster. Pay yourself first. The power of self-discipline. More all of all the steps, self discipline may be the most difficult to master if it's not part of that of your makeup. But personal self discipline is the number one delineating factor between the rich, poor, and middle class. The world pushes you around and puts pressure on you, and if you don't know the tolerance for financial pressure, you will never become rich. Robert teaches students in his entrepreneurship classes that the three most important management skill to starting a business are management of cash flow, people, and personal time. These apply to everyone, not just entrepreneurs, and each of these skills enhanced by the mastery of self-discipline. Though many repeat the statement "pay yourself first," they few have the discipline to put it into practice. Compare these two diagrams. People who pay themselves first. Job, income, assets, expensive, income. People who pay everyone else first. Job, income, expenses, and follow the flow of money and see how these individuals pay themselves first. By investing in the asset column before paying bill, that doesn't mean you don't pay your bills responsibly. It just means to pay yourself first. You can see how paying someone else first leaves little or nothing left to invest in the asset column. It has happened to Robert and to other that there were times when the cash flow wasn't enough to cover paying themselves first in the bills. They paid themselves first in anyway. It takes internal fortitude when bills collectors are screaming, but it makes investment in assets a priority and leads to becoming rich. To successfully pay yourself first, don't get into large debt position that you have to pay for. Keep your expenses low, build your assets first, then buy the big house or nice car. When you come up short, let the pressure build and don't dip into your saving or investments. Use the pressure to inspire your financial genius to come up with new ways of making more money. Then pay your bills. You will have increased your ability to make more money as well as your financial intelligence. Remember that this rule doesn't not encourage self-sacrifice or financial abstinence. It doesn't mean pay yourself first and starve. Life was meant to be enjoyed. If you call on your financial genius, you can have all the goodies of life. Get rich and pay bills. Pay your brokers well. The power of good advice. Many people try to save a few dollars by using discount brokers or selling their house on their own, but not only do good professionals save you time, they make you money. Information is priceless. A good broker should provide you with information as well as making you money. Learn from them. In truth, what you pay them is a tinny in comparison what kind of money you can make with the information they give you. Not all brokers are created equally. Interview them and find out how much property or investment they own. Find one who has your best interest at and treat him or her fairly. Companies have a board of directors because they know the value in having people smarter than they are around. You should have a board of directors too. Be an Indian giver, the power of getting something for nothing. The term Indian giver arose out of a cultural misunderstanding when the first European settlers come to the New World. If a settler was cold, an Indian would give the person a blanket. The settler mistook it for a gift and was offended when the Indian asked for it back. The Indian got upset when the settler did not want to give it back. It was a misunderstanding of what the transaction was. In terms of investing in asset column, it's key to be an Indian giver, that is getting your initial investment back and quickly. One example is a condo Robert bought with cash for $50,000. It rented in the high season for $2,500 and for $1,000 the rest of the year. Within about 3 years, it paid for itself. In essence, Robert's original $50,000 was back in his pocket, and the asset continues to make him money month in and month out. Some don't like the risk and prefer to keep their money in saving account, but there's there it's not making anything, and they also don't get anything for free with it. For each of his investment, Robert says there must be an upside, something for free, like a mini storage, a piece of free land, stock shares, a house, and there must be limited risk. Use assets to buy luxuries. The power of focus. Robert loves luxuries as much as the next person, but he won't borrow money for them. Instead, focusing on asset column to create money to buy those luxuries. He shares the example of a friend whose teenage son wanted a car rather than buy it himself or have the son use his saving for it. The father gave him $3,000 and some information on the stock market and told him he couldn't use that $3,000 directly to buy a car. He had to invest it, and when he had made $6,000, he could use that for a car, and the original $3,000 would go into his college fund. Although the son had yet to realize that profit, his interest and learning grew sky high. He was learning a lesson that would serve him well in life, growing asset in order to pay for the things he wanted. Developing cash flow from asset column is easy in theory, what's hard in the mental fortitude to direct money to the correct use. Borrowing money is easy in the short term but harder in the long run. Ninth, choose heroes. The power of myth. One of the most powerful ways we learn as children is pretending to be our heroes. Robert continues that as an adult, though his heroes have changed, instead of pretending to be Wele Mays at bat, he channels the bravado of Trump while negotiating a deal, or the analytical skill of Warren Buffett when looking at trends. By having heroes, we tap into their genius, and because they make it look easy, they inspire us to try. To teach, and you shall receive the power of giving. Robert learned from rich dad to give money as well as education. He would say, if you want something, you first need to give. When he was short of money, he gave to his church or to his favorite charity. Whenever you feel in need to something, whether that money is smile, love, or friendship, give it first, and it will come back in buckets. This is also true in teaching. The more you teach, the more you learn. Both of Robert's dad proved that be generous with what you have and make sure you are giving for the joy that giving itself brings, not giving simply to receive. Left hemisphere moment. Use self discipline to pay yourself first in order to protect the priority of growing your asset column. Right hemisphere movement, keep your mind open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. These can add to the synergy of other accumulated ideas. Subconscious movement, harness the deep-seated emotional reasons you want to become rich. Make them strong, and they will help you weather the obstacle along the road to wealth. What was Robert saying? There is gold everywhere. Most people are not trained to see it without a strong reason or purpose. Anything in life is hard financially. With every dollar we get in our hands, we hold the power to choose our future, to be rich, poor, or middle class. 90% of the population buys TV sets, and only about 10% buy business books. Each of us knows people who are highly educated or believe they are smart, but their bank balance sheet paints a different picture. I have noticed that my friends with money talk about money. They don't do it to brag. They are interested in the subject, so I learn from them and they learn from me. If you are tired of what you are doing, or you are not making enough, it's simply a case of changing the formula via which you can make money. People who lack internal fortitude often become victims of those who have self discipline. I have lost money on many occasions, but I only play with money I can afford to lose. The easy road often becomes hard, and the hard road often becomes easy. Additional questions. What are the reasons you want to become rich? Your wants and don't wants. Would Robert think you are strong enough? You are spending habits reflecting the life you want. If not, what can you change? What are you choosing to put in your head every day? When was the last time you took a seminar or read a business book other than this one? What have you learned from your friends about finances, good or bad? Would you say your self-discipline muscle is in shape or tends a good workout? Do you have a board of directors, brokers, and other professionals you pay well for their excellent information and ability to make you money in your life? Did you understand the concept put forth in step 7? If not, discuss it with your study partner. The last time you purchased a luxury, how did you pay for it? What is your financial hero? Sorry, who is your financial hero? How do you emulate this person in your actions? Term definition, ROI, return on investment. Here's chapter 9. Here are some to dos. Chapter summary for those who wants to do list of actions or tackle. Here some here are some of the things Robert does in abbreviated form. Stop doing what you are doing. Take a break and assess what is working and what is not working. Look for new ideas. Go to bookstore and search for books on different and unique subject. The book that the 16% solution by Joy Moskowitz taught Robert something new and spurred him to action. Find someone who has done what you want to do. Take them to lunch and ask them for tips and tricks of trade. Take classes, read and attend seminars. Robert searches newspaper and the internet for new and interesting classes. Make lots of offers. You don't know what the right price is until you have a second party who wants to deal. Most sellers ask too much. It is rare that a seller ask a price that is less than something is worth. It's fun, only a game. Make offers, someone might say yes. And make offers with escape clauses. Jog, walk, or drive a certain area once a month for 10 minutes. Robert has found some of his real estate investment doing this. He will jog a certain neighborhood for a year and for look for change. For there to be profit deal, there must be two elements: a bargain and the change. There are lots of bargains, but it's change that turns a bargain into a profitable opportunity. Takes only a few minutes a month, and he does it while doing something else like exercising or going to and from the store. Shop for bargains in all markets. Consumers will always be poor. When the supermarket has a sale, say on toilet paper, the consumer runs in and stock up. But when the housing or the stock market has a sale, most often called a crash or correction, the same consumer often runs away from it. Remember, profits are made in the buying, not in the selling. Look in the right places. A neighbor bought a condominium for $100K. Robert bought the identical condo next door to $50,000. He told Robert he was waiting for the price to go up. Robert told him that profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. He shopped with a real estate broker who owns no property of her own. Robert shopped at the foreclosure auction. Having paid $500 for a class on how to do this, his neighbor thought that the $500 for a real estate investment class was too expensive. He said he could not afford the money or the time, so he waits the price to go up. Look for money, look for people who wants to buy first. They'll then look for someone who wants to sell. Buy the pie and cut it into pieces. Most people look for what they can afford, so they look too small. Then buy only a piece of the pie, so they end up paying more for less. Small thinkers don't get the big breaks. If you want to get richer, think big. Think big. Retailers love giving volume discounts simply because most business people love big spenders. Even if you are small, you can band together with others to negotiate for a greater deal because you want to buy so many of a certain object. Small people remain small because they think small, act alone, and don't act all. Learn from history. All the big companies on the stock exchange started out as small companies. Colonel Sanders did not get rich until after he lost everything in his 60s. Bill Gates was one of the richest men in the world before he was 30. Action always beats inaction. You must take action before you can receive the financial awards. Act now. Additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with the understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partner. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept the challenge to change your thoughts and mindset. Does this to-do list inspire you or intimidate you? What actions are you already taking from the above list? Above, after reading the list, which item jumps out at you as something you hadn't considered or fully utilized? What steps can you take to put into action in your life? Final thoughts. Summary of final thoughts. It's only one page. More 4 minutes. The main reason Robert wrote this book was to share insights into how increased financial intelligence can be used to solve many of life's common problems. He shares an example of how a friend worried about being able to save enough money for his children's college education was able to turn an initial $7,900 down payment into a high house in Phoenix into a project a few years later that generates $3,000 a month in income. It took just a little money to start, and financial intelligence, education, and wisdom about money are important. Start early, buy a book, go to a seminar, practice, start small. It's what is in your head that determines what is in your hands. Oh, money is only an idea. In the world of accounting, there are three kinds of income: ordinary, earned, portfolio, and passive. Passive income, most cases, is income derived from real estate investment. Portfolio income is income derived from paper assets such as stocks and bonds. Taxes are highest on earned incomes and lowest on passive. Passive, as Rich Dad would say, the government taxes the income you work hard for more than the income your money works hard for. In Robert's second book, Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant, he explains the four different types of people who make up the world of business: E. Employee, S. Self employed, B. Business owner, and I. Investor, and how people can change their quadrant. In Rich Dad's Guide to Investing, book number 3 in the Rich Dad series, Robert Kett goes into more detail on the importance of converting earned income into passive and portfolio income. Robert and Kim's board games continue this education as well, teaching what books called the cash flow games for adults and cash flow for kids game are designed to teach players the basic investment skills of converting earned income into passive and portfolio income. They also teach the principles of accounting and financial literacy, knowing the differences in the three income and learning the investment skills of how to acquire the different income is basic education for anyone who strives to acquire great wealth and achieve financial freedom, a special kind of freedom that only a few will ever know. All of us were given two great gifts, your mind and your time. It is up to you to do what you please with both. With each dollar bill that enters your hand, you and only you have the power to determine your destiny every day. With every dollar you decide to be rich, poor, or middle class. Choose to share this knowledge with your children, and you choose to prepare them for the world that awaits. Additional question: what's the first thing you are going to do when you finish this study guide? What are you waiting for? Okay, we have completed the study session of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and thanks for watching this very long video. Thanks and bye bye. Thank you very much.